Today we are talking about casing cards. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to take case cards but make them your own. Let's get into it. Casing, which stands for copy and share everything, is a popular technique among crafters. It involves taking inspiration from a handmade card design and putting your own spin on it. So we're going to jump into this today. And okay, there's my inspiration up on the screen. My inspiration comes from Sandy McCaver from Canada. I really liked her card, so I wanted to get inspiration from that and make a design based on my own. So once you, speaking of inspiration, you can find inspiration for your cards in a number of places, especially nowadays. There's tons of places online. I found Sandy's card on Instagram, which is a plethora of card inspiration if you actually go and look. So there's one place you can go. There's Split Coast Stampers and other things. It's all about finding that spark of inspiration. All right, so the next step in casing is to analyze the design. You're going to take a closer look at the elements that make up the card and make it stand out to you. So, for example, on Sandy's card, it was a Christmas theme. It was gold, black, brown, and two different shades of green and white in the color scheme. I liked the elements. There was an embossed background, a floral nature type element, a vertical and horizontal element, and there was a corner focal point. Techniques that she used that I noticed was embossing, ink blending, and die cutting. So now that I have sat down and I wrote all that out, I'm going to pay special attention to every detail and make notes, which is what I did. And then I can come back and after I've analyzed the card design, I can come in and make it my own. So I've started to put my creative twist on the design by adding my own personal touch and style. You can swap out the colors if you wanted. I did add an additional color to my design, but I did keep Sandy's pine needle and brush corduroy and evergreen bough colors on the leaves. I also added in a little metallic gold and ink and a little scorched timber. I forgot the new color's name. So as you can see right on Sandy's card on the screen, that vertical element, I'm going to modify what she did and add my own spin on that. So I'm ink blending my panel and I'll end up die cutting that out. I'm using those same green colors because I liked how that looks going up the vertical and the horizontal elements. Okay, so once you have that all narrowed down, you're going to gather your supplies and you're going to make the vision that's in your mind come to life. So I've chose all my cardstocks, my papers. I'm doing my ink blending with my die cuts. And I'm going to start laying out my elements in a minute. But it's all about, there's nothing wrong with casing. Don't get me wrong. And everybody does it. But you do want to add your own creative spin to it. Don't just copy someone's card. Make it your own. If you do copy someone's card, exactly, you need to give credit. You should always give credit where you find your inspiration at, wherever that may be, or whoever it may be. Sometimes I know it's hard, especially on Pinterest, because you don't know who did it. But usually you can find out who did what if you do a little research. All right, so let's break down the elements of the card that Sandy created. She has that floral element and floral/nature element. So I'm going to use my Lovely Layers Amaryllis dyes for that, which is what y'all have been watching me cut and ink blend. So I've already used that. I've got my nature element. You saw me ink blend my panel for my vertical and horizontal elements. I also have my, you saw the gold cardstock that we're going to use. So that's the gold element that Sandy used in her colors. You saw my black cardstock, which Sandy used. So the only additional thing that I added to her color scheme was I did add in those two colors. Three colors, 4 colors actually, technically. But we added in the red and we added in the additional brown color for shadows. I've got my ink blending that she did. I've done die cutting like she had, and I will do dry embossing like she did. I will also add in heat embossing. I'm not sure if she did heat embossing or not, but I couldn't tell. It's hard to tell sometimes in the photos. So as you're looking for your inspiration and you find those, I suggest maybe keeping a file, a saved file on your Instagram account if you have Instagram, or a Pinterest board. I find those to be the easiest ways to save inspiration. I used to save them on the computer, but that took a lot long, and I had to hunt down who did what, and that was just a whole pain. So it's easier just to do it on those platforms. If you don't know how to do that, you can Google how to save something on Instagram or save something in a save file on Facebook. Just make sure you always write down their names. Always keep the person's name. That way you know who did it. Okay, so also, all right, so I'm finishing up my floral elements, and I'm going to take those ink blended panels that I did, and I've cut those down using some strip dies, and you can see where Sandy has the vertical elements. I'm doing the embossing now. So I've taken up that black cardstock, and for some reason my embossing folder got stuff all over it. So I had to clean that off once it was dry because I did spritz it. It's not a 3D embossing folder, but I find that it get better impression. Now I'm going to do my heat embossing, and I'm pretty sure Sandy did. I read on her blog that she did do heat embossing on her sentiment. So I'm going to do my heat embossing on my black. And I've changed my stamp set because the original one I picked out wouldn't fit. So sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to make a little adjustments to your card design. And you might have to change it midway, like I just did. I had to change from a Spellbinder stamp set over to a Simon Says stamp set, and I really liked how it came out. And the name of the stamp set is So Much Love. I'm not sure if it's still available, but I will find out. It will be linked in the visual supply list if it is, in the description below. So we're going to cut that out with our matching die, which is more die cutting, which Sandy also did. She cut out her sentiment. I did add a twist. I added a sentiment strip at the end, under mine, a little sub sentiment. So I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to stack my love sentiment up three times. I cut it out 3 times. Once with the embossing, once without. So there's another little twist. I don't know if Sandy popped her. I think hers was too thin to pop up, probably. All right, but anyway, so once you get your inspiration, you're going to add your own little spins to it. I call them twists, which is like what I'm doing right now. For the embossing, I wanted a little bit more gold on the card. So I'm using gold ink, pigment ink, and I'm just spraying over my embossing and adding some gold details to it. Then once that was dry, I could come in and start adding my vertical elements. This is where my strips are going to come in. I like that whole vertical and horizontal corner design Sandy did. So I'm going to recreate that, but I'm not using the floral per se for that. I'm going to use these ink blended stripes because remember, Sandy did ink blending on her card. So I've got my ink blending here. I've got my embossed panel in the background. I've got my 2 colors of different green inks. One's lighter, one's darker, and I'm going to alternate those on the colors. That way, I still have those elements in the card design. But if you sit and look at this card, and if you look at the title card thumbnail, you will not. If you looked at them side by side, you wouldn't think, "Oh, Rick just copied her." You can't tell because I put my own twist on there. I did take inspiration from Sandy's card, but I put my own little twist in it to create my own card design, and that's really what casing's all about. Casing's a great way of learning card making. We all pretty much do it when we start out. We copy everybody else, copy them exactly. But once you get to a point, you really need to be analyzing the card designs and figuring out what that is you like about those cards. So by doing that, you actually become a better crafter and card maker because you're able to create your own designs in your own personal style. By casing actually helps you create your own style because it helps you figure out what you like to do, what you don't like, what design elements you like, and it makes you a much better crafter. So back to the card for a second. I'm going to pop up my certain areas of that floral element because of the die cutting. So there's that. So I'm adding I've got my vertical and horizontal corner elements like Sandy does on her card. And I've got my floral elements, and then I've got my gold heat emboss sentiment on there. It's just like Sandy's card you can see on the screen. I'm going to add that sub-sentiment. I did exclude the white berries that Sandy used. And pretty much some of the white elements in general. I did go back after the fact, and I added some white highlights, but that's about it. All right, now we're going to compare both cards side by side. So you can look on Sandy's card, and you can see the vertical and floral elements going on the bottom corner focal point. On my card, I have a vertical and horizontal element. I have that floral element as my nature element. I have the gold embossed sentiment like she does. I've added some gold pearls, and that is how you case a card. And if you like this video, you're probably going to like this one.